All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Offside Opinions podcast. I'm Australian Tia,
And I'm Levi Nall.
and we'll just jump right in with the recap of last week's games.
So I guess we'll start with the teams that lost in last week's games. With the first game of the week, Thursday night, the Commanders faced the Eagles, and started off pretty slow, but both teams ended up having a pretty great game, except for, obviously the Commanders lost, so I think the biggest question for them needs to be how do you resolve the defensive issues they've been having, because I think that was, a large portion of why they lost. I think it's probably too early to call them frauds for sure. They're definitely still a top NFC team, but they need to figure out how to fix up their defense if they're going to make a deep playoff run.
And yeah, I totally agree with Levi here. Also, I feel like giving them a few more games. I mean, they have lost a lot to .500 and above teams that will be playoff contenders. But I think maybe a few weeks later, even if they lose more to .500 teams, then it's going to be time to start calling them frauds. Right now, It might be a little bit too early.
With the Bears versus Packers, the Bears lost, not horribly. I wouldn't say it was a really close game, but they still lost, and they've had a lot of that lately. And so far, I would say Caleb Williams is looking like a pretty big bust. I think they need to. He needs to figure his game out if they want a chance at the playoffs, which I don't think they have a chance at this point. But
yeah, I agree again because they're in the NFC North, and the NFC North
super competitive right now.
A very, very competitive, just in general, time for them. Of course, Green Bay is playing phenomenally, probably going to make the playoffs. The Vikings and the Lions, I think, have run away with that division just about. So I think, yes, I again agree with you right here. And then also for Caleb Williams, I think as of right now, is it too early to start calling him the fourth best quarterback in the draft?
Yeah.
Jay Daniels has looked better.
Yep.
So has Drake May, sure. And so has Bo Nix.
Yeah.
So really, I think it's time to start calling him maybe the bust.
It's his first season, so he'll take some time settling in. But yeah, not looking great so far. Jaguars Lions, man, worst loss in Jaguars history apparently. And the question after that game is who's gonna get the axe? And I think it needs to be Doug Peterson. I don't know that it's 100% his fault. Trevor Lawrence being out has not helped. And really, their offense has just not had a great year so far. But somebody has to get fired after a loss that bad, and I think it needs to be Doug Peterson.
It is his fault that the Jaguars are so bad, but it also doesn't help that they've paid Trevor Lawrence to be
that too
that highly paid, if you know what I mean. And it doesn't. I don't agree with how the Jaguars are running their organization.
Yeah. Raiders, Dolphins. The Raiders. They're not much is looking great right now. Brock Bowers looks amazing, but yeah, the quarterback situation isn't looking great. They wanted Michael Penix, but yeah, they're still needing a quarterback right now. So, do their best to get a good quarterback in the draft is I think the only way to get out of the hole they're stuck in right now.
Brock Bowers, you saved my fantasy team. Thank you so much.
Patriots lost to the Rams. Drake May looks pretty good right now. Better than Caleb Williams. I think he threw that game-losing interception, but I think he still looks pretty good. He definitely still has the lack of confidence that's natural for a rookie, but yeah, they really just need to try and get some good offensive weapons to help them out over the offseason.
See, the Patriots, I think they can turn it around pretty quickly. Their defense is still pretty good, even though their secondary has some questions. But I think really the weapons, I think I agree with you, are the biggest issue right now. The more weapons you give Drake May, I think the better of a quarterback he will become. And the Patriots could really be in playoff contention in the next few years if the weapons just are there.
Keep Drake May around for sure. Browns lost to Saints pretty badly. I mean, Jameis Winston's still playing okay, but I don't know that they're gonna save the season at this point. I mean, just finish out the season as best as you can. Get to next year. Hope something's different. Cut Deshaun Watson. I don't really know that there's anything they can do for this season.
Getting points on the board is their biggest issue, and
make the losses less ugly.
They beat the Ravens. I mean,
yep.
There's hope in that, but I think that was more beginner's luck for Jameis Winston than it really was true talent there.
Yeah.
So I think really just getting points on the board is their biggest hope.
Ravens had a pretty ugly loss to the Steelers. I would say it wasn't points-wise, it wasn't terribly ugly, but man, losing to the Steelers after they didn't score a single touchdown all game. I mean, it didn't help that Justin Tucker missed way too many field goals for being a contender for the best kicker of all time. I think, honestly, he's looking pretty washed right now. I think they're going to need to consider if they need to change the kicker position over the offseason, because honestly, he might have been the one that sold that game.
And again, the Ravens O-line, they gave a lot of the pieces of the O-line to the Jets. And, I mean, Derrick Henry, he hasn't really ever had a good O-line, but also this game it showed out more because he was facing an actually very good D-line. And so, really, that's a part that the Ravens should focus on in the offseason. But there's still a lot of the season to go. They'll make a pretty good playoff run probably, so I don't think the Ravens should be too worried. It's just a little frustrating loss to the Steelers.
Yeah. The Titans had a nice sized loss to the Vikings. They definitely need to rebuild differently than they did this past offseason. They obviously have faith in Will Levis, and I don't think Will Levis is necessarily bad, but the way that they built their team around him was not the way that they should have. It's not really their fault that L'Jarius Sneed is injured, but definitely their fault for only targeting wide receivers that are over 30 years old. And yeah, that was not the best way to rebuild their team. I mean, I don't know that necessarily they need to consider cutting Will Levis or trading him or anything, but definitely rebuild differently next offseason.
Can they stop trading all their good players away to good teams? They make the Chiefs better. They traded A.J. Brown to the Eagles. The next year, the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. I mean, at this point, somebody's got to give their GM a whack upside the head. You just can't keep doing that.
Yep.
You're making every good team better. It's not helping anybody.
And the only players you're bringing in are ancient and have no future ahead of them. Jets, very, very bad loss to the Colts, I would say. I think at this point it's obvious that Aaron Rodgers does not have the potential to do anything with that team. I think the rumors are true that he's not going to be with the Jets next offseason. So I think it's time for him to either retire or be resigned to a backup quarterback. I mean, how hard can the Jets tank, I guess, draft a QB?
I mean, how hard can they tank? Right now, the way that's looking like, if they just lose the rest of the games of the season, they'll probably end up with the number 1 seed, provided the Titans actually win a few more games. And I think really their best hope is in drafting again a QB in the draft. Hope that Cam Ward declares for draft, I'm guessing, is going to be just what they want.
Another Falcons loss, this time to the Broncos. Falcons defense just did not, I mean, they didn't help, but Kirk Cousins definitely didn't help either. He had a great start to the season, but I would not say that was a great move overall, picking him up. He's having a lot of consistency issues so far this season. I think, they should not have paid him as much money as they did. They might even consider trying to have a good enough appearance for the rest of the season and maybe try and trade Kirk Cousins away, because I don't think he's the solution to getting that offense to work.
Yeah, I agree. Consistency is the biggest problem for the Falcons. Every time we think they're going to be good, they end up fumbling the bag somehow. Yep. I know Darnell Mooney, I think, got hurt in the game, but he should not be your number one target. I mean, Drake London is by far the best receiver in that team. Kyle Pitts has shown upside.
Had almost no targets.
Yeah, he's shown upside though, and I think that the Broncos defense is good. We'll give him that. Pat Surtain, he's a real guy, but I think consistency issues are gonna either make their run or destroy their run.
Yeah. 49ers lost to the Seahawks. I did not expect that to happen. I knew it would be a pretty close game because that's a great divisional competition, but not a great game overall. CMC had a great first game back, I would say, but that was not a great game for him. That was not a great game for. I mean, obviously missing George Kittle is not helpful, but not a great game for that offense.
I mean, Brock Purdy threw a touchdown. He threw a pick. Okay. CMC only had a little above 100 scrimmage yards. I think you need to either A, target him more, or B, somehow get Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel, your wide receiver corps, which have looked good, of course, apart from the Brandon Ayuk injury and all his drama earlier. But I think the 49ers, they're 2 wins off from being number 1 seed. But so are the Seahawks, so are the Rams.
It's a close division.
The Rams have the best division record apart from the Cardinals, who are right now in first place. The Seahawks are after them, and the 49ers are dead last. So I think the 49ers have pretty much lost their chance of being able to just outright win the division using head-to-heads. They really need to just hope that the other teams fail and they succeed and keep.
They can still make the playoffs. I mean, now's the time to start figuring out what needs to change. Chiefs lost to the Bills. Always a great game. Always a really close game. But I still would not say, even though the score was real close the whole time, I would not say the Chiefs played that well. They definitely need to get. Mahomes definitely needs to start limiting the turnovers. That would definitely help. And they need to figure out how to get Xavier Worthy more consistent because he's looking like their best deep target right now. D-Hop is just insignificant in that offense at this point, but. Yeah, if they can figure out how to get some deep balls going, they'll have a better chance of winning games like that. So,
yeah, Xavier Worthy. I mean, they had the one big play where they tried to throw it to him. It would have really helped them out down the stretch.
And they had a couple successful big plays too.
But he stepped out of bounds, and I think that's more of a rookie thing than it actually is a wide receiver thing. If they start to use him like they use Tyreek Hill, but not like to the volume on which they use Tyreek Hill, then I feel like the Chiefs could get a lot of that deep ball that Andy Reid loves back.
And the last game Sunday, prime time, the Bengals lost a close one again, and yet again their offense looked good, at least in the second half. And yet again Joe Burrow looks amazing, but their defense just keeps selling these big wins. That they need to be getting. I mean, honestly, I would not say it's a given that they make the playoffs anymore. They always have a slow start to the season, but this is an especially slow start, and I think it's obvious that the defense is to blame. So, yeah, and I guess Evan McPherson. So yeah, figure out how to make the effort Joe Burrow is putting in worth it and start getting some wins.
You're wasting the seasons of 2 very good players.
I mean, these are their peak seasons.
If it wasn't for Burrow's or for the Bengals' terrible record, Burrow would be in MVP conversations.
Yep.
If it wasn't for the Bengals' terrible record, Jamar Chase would be in receiver triple crown conversations. And Evan McPherson missed 2 crucial field goals. So did Justin Tucker. So, I guess 2 kickers who we've always said are very, very accurate kickers just did not do anything. But I think the defense is the biggest issue.
The biggest, yeah.
And that needs to be fixed. I don't know how. I don't know even if you can do that at this point. But you need to fix that.
Yeah, there's not much more their offense can be doing. And with the Monday night game, the Cowboys lost another one and another pretty humiliating one. I don't. At the beginning of that game, it looked decently close, but I don't even think they have a hope for this season. And even when Dak Prescott comes back next year, he's way too expensive for how little talent he's shown. And Mike McCarthy. So he needs to get the axe. They need to trade him away, and Mike McCarthy also definitely needs to get the axe. Keep C.D. Lamb around. Try and rebuild from there. I don't know what else to say.
Same thing like with the Jets. Just hope for a good QB in the draft.
You got a great offense, at least potentially, and your quarterback is selling it. Your coaching is selling it.
So now for the winners of the past week. So Philadelphia beat Washington Thursday night. They kept Saquon involved. I think that was the biggest plus point. And the defense played relatively well, locking up Terry McLaurin. Sure, I think they gave Austin Eckler too much room, but I feel like at the end of the day, you can give him 100 yards.
It's not that big of a deal. It's Austin Eckler. I don't think that's...
So Chicago and Green Bay. Green Bay beat Chicago. They still own the Bears, 10-0 against them in the last 10 matchups. Can Jordan Love limit the INTs? He's thrown an interception in all of the games he's played this season, but I feel like if he limits the turnovers, they might be able to pull off some upsets in the playoffs or even in the season still, because there's still a lot to go.
Their defense is right on the verge of top 10, and their offense is also looking really strong. I think they can make a good playoff run.
Lions beat the Jags. Another game, another day, another very, very, very good win.
Yep.
The Lions, they remind me of the 2019 Rams a lot. Same quarterback, great running back, great O-line, great defense. Probably will make the Super Bowl from the NFC, you have to guess.
Yep.
But really, can they just keep it up and continue beating every team? Because I feel like right now, no team's really trying to stop them.
There's not really very many big questions for that team right now.
The Dolphins. They got Tyreek involved. They got Devon Achane involved. They had a big game. I think that recipe is going to be their biggest hope, and that's how they're going to probably get back into the playoff picture.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tua had a pretty good game. I think he's still looking strong enough after the concussions. I think they have a decent chance at playoffs.
The Rams beat the Patriots. So the Rams, they got Koopa. I think that's perfect. Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua both involved. They basically just torched the secondary, and that was their biggest hope, and it worked. So I think they're still 2 games off. NFC West race still wide open. Same thing for the Seahawks. NFC West race still wide open. Can both these teams just hope that the other falls so they can hopefully make a jump into there? The Saints. And Taysom Hill, we trust. So many fantasy managers who probably had Taysom Hill this week were happy. And I'm sad because I was going to pick him up and then I didn't. But
yeah.
No Olave, no Lattimore, I guess no problem. Can the Saints close out the season with some more wins and maybe steal the NFC South?
I mean, yeah, that's not looking like a terribly strong division. Buccaneers are very weak without most of their offensive weapons. Falcons are looking terrible. I think they can make the playoffs.
The Steelers, they beat the Ravens, only kicking field goals. They're 2-0 in doing that. That's the same record as like the Jags and the Titans right now. So I mean, I feel like that's if that's going to be the recipe that Mike Tomlin wants to use, that's going to be the Mike Tomlin recipe.
Yeah,
but I feel like
formula.
In the playoffs, it's not going to work as well. So can Russ really just get them to the end zone more?
And their defense stay at the insane level that they're playing right now.
The Vikings beat the Titans. It wasn't really a special game. Darnold had a fumble. The first half looked a little ugly here and there.
Running game was just not working.
But like at the end of the day, a win's a win. Really keep your head up. Can Darnold limit the turnovers?
Pretty easy schedule from here on out, except for the Lions. We're making the playoffs at this point. We just need to figure out how to limit the turnovers in the playoffs.
Colts beat the Jets. Anthony Richardson, he came back. He looked great. Will he keep it up?
Yep.
If it's going to be beginner's luck like Jameis Winston, then I have a high feeling that he's just going to get benched again later down the road.
Yeah.
But
I don't think that's the right decision, though. I mean, Joe Flacco might have more consistency than he does, but he's definitely the explosive quarterback they need right now.
Broncos beat the Falcons. Is Bo Nix the second best quarterback in the league? Or in the league. Rookie quarterback in the draft class.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
I always say yeah. I mean, yeah, he's just playing at an insane level. They didn't have a stellar start unlike Jaden Daniels, but I mean, he's just racking up wins. Almost beat the Chiefs. I think his future looks pretty good with the Broncos.
The Seahawks. I already mentioned them earlier with the NFC race being wide open. Can they just hope for it to happen? And they lost to the Rams, beat the 49ers. They have a big game against the Cardinals, I think either this week or next week. Or I know it's for sure soon. And that game, I think, is really going to determine what their standing is going to look like in that division.
Mm-hmm. Get DK Metcalf back into it for sure. He's bouncing back from some injuries right now. But when you've got DK Metcalf playing at his top level, that offense looks a lot different than they have been lately.
Buffalo beats the Chiefs. Great win.
Mm-hmm. Ended
the undefeated streak. Thank you. The only issue is now, can the defense keep it up? Because the defense looks spotty at times. And I think it's evident in the way they've played. They really wanted to win this game more than the Chiefs did. Mm-hmm. But it's just, can they keep it up?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, Josh Allen looks like a top potential for MVP right now. He's carrying that offense right now. I think he has a good chance of winning MVP.
So the Chargers, Harbaugh, he's just turning the entire organization around. He turned Michigan around. Now he's turning this organization around. Can they stay healthy and make the playoffs?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, just avoid what happened last year with their entire offense getting injured, and that offense is looking real strong right now.
Houston beats Dallas. In Joe Mixon, they trusted, and Joe Mixon, he delivered. So
somehow.
I think they have a lot of stars like the Dolphins, and I think if they continue to get their stars involved, they'll be just fine. Mm. Their defense is young, but it's been playing pretty well, and I think that's the recipe that's going to get them to the playoffs. Mm. Now for some picks and predictions. First one, Steelers-Browns. Who do you think is going to win?
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that the Steelers win that one.
No discussion needed there. I think it's just easy pick.
You can lock down Jameis Winston. I think so.
Chiefs-Panthers. Who do you think is going to win?
I mean, Chiefs looked ugly last week, but I think they win this game. I mean, Bryce Young is sort of bouncing back, but definitely not enough to beat the Chiefs.
The first, actually not too evident is the Vikings and the Bears this week, but I think the Vikings will run away with it. They just have to get Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, just the entire offense back together. And
the defense has got to stay consistent. We've had some spotty areas in our secondary right now. Stephon Gilmore's looking a little on and off, but I think we can take the Bears, and I think we can win that game.
Another easy one. Titans-Texans. Who wins?
Yeah, I would say Texans. I mean, the Texans haven't looked the most consistent this year. I mean, yeah, but I wouldn't say that there's a whole lot of explanation for that pick needed. I think it's pretty obvious who wins that game.
Lions-Colts?
Yeah, I mean, probably Lions. These are some pretty easy matchups so far. The Colts, I mean, Anthony Richardson is probably not going to be able to take a team like the Lions yet. I mean, their defense is kind of weak right now, but I think they're definitely going to be able to hold back the Colts.
And I totally agree. I think the Lions are the team to beat in the NFC, and I don't think any other team is going to be able to even touch them.
I just got to hope they keep racking up injuries on the defense.
Let alone the Colts, who they're good, they're young, but they're not on the level of the Lions.
No.
Patriots-Dolphins. This is my first upset pick of the week. I think that the Patriots beat the Dolphins. I
mean, it's not outlandish. I still go with the more obvious pick here and say the Dolphins win. Patriots defense has looked really, really spotty, and the Dolphins offense is just now starting to lock in again. I think it'll be a high scoring game for the Dolphins for sure. I think it's not out of the realm of possibility that the Patriots win, but it's more likely that the Dolphins win.
Here's the thing about the Patriots. I think that they're going to be able to fix the defense up this week for the Dolphins, especially because of the amount of fear Tyreek Hill and Devon Achane, two very, very fast people, are going to put into you.
Yeah.
So I think because of that's why they're going to just fix the defense entirely. Next, Bucs-Giants. Another obvious one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants just benched Daniel Jones. I think that was the nail in the coffin for this season for them. I don't think that they have much hope for the rest of the season. Yeah, Bucks win.
Cowboys Commanders. Another upset pick. I think the Cowboys might just barely beat the Commanders, but
That you need some justification for that claim.
the reason why I think that's going to happen is that the Cowboys are going to get a miracle, and they're just barely going to win, and it's going to be their last win this season.
I mean, I think the Commanders' defense isn't the most intimidating, but...
And imagine thinking I was serious when I said that. Of course the Commanders are going to win. Do you think I was being serious when I said that?
I mean, I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility for an offense with CeeDee Lamb against a weak-ish defense, but...
No, of course the Commanders are going to blow the hats off the Cowboys. The Cowboys, if they score 20 points, I think that's a win in itself.
Yeah,
the Commanders are going to absolutely destroy the Cowboys. It's not even a debate.
I guess.
Broncos Raiders.
I'd say that one's gonna be close, but I think it's pretty likely the Broncos win. It depends on how well how good the pass protection is, because the Raiders D-line looks pretty intimidating right now. So we'll have to see how well Bo Nix can play into that kind of pressure. But he played really well against the Chiefs defense. I think the Broncos still win that game.
49ers Packers. I think this is the game to watch for the week. It's going to be a very, very close game.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Packers are going to barely beat the 49ers. But I would not be surprised if this game went to overtime.
Yeah, it could definitely go either way for that game. It depends on if George Kittle is back to 100% by then, I guess. But yeah, that'll be a close game either way.
Cardinals Seahawks.
I think that'll be another really close divisional matchup, just like the Seahawks Niners. I'm gonna go out on a bit of a limb, I guess, and say Seahawks win. After this past week's game, I wouldn't say that's outlandish to expect, but their offense has looked super inconsistent this year. Really, their whole team has. So I could see the Cardinals winning too.
It's gonna sound biased, I'm a Rams fan, but I want the Seahawks to win this one. Not because I'm the biggest Seahawks fan of all time, but, who wants the Cardinals winning the division? Come on. If you're a Cardinals fan and you're watching this, I'm sorry, but nobody wants you winning the division.
You're not going to make a playoff run with that team. I'm sorry to break it to you, but you're not. Their defense is not good enough for the playoffs.
Eagles-Rams. Rams win. Pretty easily.
I don't think that you can say it won't even be close. Their defense is a little bit spotty. I don't think the run defense is that bad, but again, it's Saquon Barkley.
In Jared Verse, we trust. Jared Verse is going to lock up Saquon. I'm kidding. It's going to be a close game. Hopefully the Rams will pull off the upset. But I think the secondary will be torched by A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, but
I think that'll be a fun game as well.
It'll just be who can score more points. Ravens Chargers. Battle of the Harbaughs. Who do you think is going to win?
I think that'll be another. These last couple of games are going to be real close ones. I think the Chargers win that one though. The Ravens look way too weak defensively to hold back Justin Herbert.
Jim Harbaugh's turned around the Chargers defense, and I think that's why the Chargers are going to win this game. You know that the Chargers want to prove something this year. They want to prove that they are actually an AFC team that can make a playoff run. And I don't think they're going to let any team come in between that. They're going to lose a game. It's given. But they're not going to just let some team that's way better than them come in and just trample them. And that's why I think the upset this week is going to be the Chargers beating the Ravens. Now to fantasy. So the bust of the week, Levi, who do you have?
There were a lot of tight ends bust this week. This is a tough one. I say it goes to... you wanted George Kittle, but I don't know. I don't think it's fair to say that he's a bust just because he got injured. I think the bust this week, and this is a little bit biased since I started him and he lost me the game, Mike Gesicki, what are you doing? What are you doing? Enough said. Kyle Pitts didn't have a great game either. Neither did TJ Hawkinson, but what are you doing, Mike Gesicki?
Wholeheartedly agree. Wide receiver, I'll say this because I had him. In two of my leagues, I have Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin ended the game with 2 points. Yeah. I think Bust of the Week award should go to him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of competitors for that title in the tight end category, but it's a fair prospect. Quarterback, maybe Jaden Daniels, maybe.
You could go Jaden Daniels. You could go Kirk Cousins.
Maybe Kirk Cousins.
I think just giving them both the bust is good enough because both of them did not play.
Jaden Daniels was more likely to be started, so I think he was kind of a bigger bust in that way, but neither of them played very well.
Running backs. If you started Kareem Hunt, I'm sorry, he did nothing.
Aaron Jones didn't do great either. I'm biased in that I have him in a fantasy league, and I'm a Vikings fan. I was not happy with his performance, but
neither did Derrick Henry. So really,
I
think.
Yeah, I saw that one coming. I don't think it was the worst performance considering the D-line he was playing, but yeah, that was a tough one.
So start sits for the week. I think the biggest start of the week is Chris Boswell. Anytime that the Steelers play, it's just start Chris Boswell. They'll probably kick a lot of field goals.
Especially if it's against a decent defense. I think the Browns will hold him up enough that, a lot of field goals will be kicked in that game.
Every Chiefs player, on offense, because they play the Panthers, and the Panthers don't have a good defense. I think this is the one game where Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw an interception, but he might find a way. He probably will find a way, actually.
Mm-hmm. Start Jackson Smith and Jigba. That's my biggest start of the week. They're playing the Cardinals defense. Man, Jackson Smith and Jigba has been going off lately. I think he has another big week. I think that's pretty likely. Start Jackson Smith and Jigba. Enough said.
Sit the Rams defense. I think the Eagles are going to torch them, and I do not think that the Rams defense is going to be able to get a lot of sacks. I do want the Rams to win, of course, which is why I think the offense is going to show up. Mm-hmm. But the defense, I don't see the defense doing too good in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily start any Bucs players, namely Baker Mayfield. I don't know if he's been a start lately, but Giants always have a good D-line. I wouldn't say that this will be a great game for Baker Mayfield.
I feel like the person who's going to have the better end of the bargain here is going to be Kate Otton. So if you're looking for a tight end, he might be the better option to start than quarterback Baker Mayfield. But yeah. So now to the takes of the week. Is benching Daniel Jones a good move, Levi?
If your goal is to tank the season, absolutely. I think they need to draft a quarterback for sure. So I would say that's a good decision. If they're still planning to get something out of the season, it was not a good decision. And obviously, it's going to hurt Malik Neighbors' rookie performance. But at the end of the day, it was the move that needed to be done. He's had way too many starts for how bad he is.
And I agree. I think while you have the time, get rid of Daniel Jones. But right now, he doesn't look good. And I don't think he's worth the contract either. I don't think he's worth anything right at this point. I think the bench is the best move.
Yeah.
Are the Steelers real contenders?
I always say defenses win football games. I think they're real playoff contenders. I don't know about Super Bowl contenders yet. We'll have to see a little bit more explosiveness from their offense first. But the consistency of getting down the field, getting field goals, and just the insane level that their defense is playing at, I think they're definitely deep playoff contenders.
Yeah, and I think I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll close off the podcast this week with power rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hate life right now, you are a Brown, Raider, Titan, Giant, Panther, Patriot, Cowboy, Jaguar, or a Jet. That's a lot of teams.
Especially if you're Devontae Adams. I'd say that.
That's more than most of the teams above this. Is just they're not good teams.
Yeah.
And I think that's really just going to be your top 10 draft picks. It's just those teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The Patriots, we'll see where they go with Drake May. I don't know if they'll necessarily get a super high draft pick unless they intentionally tank a little bit. But and I don't know if I would say hate life right now. They have a future with Drake May, so there's at least hope. Unlike with a lot of those other organizations you named.
Yeah, and I think the biggest reason why the Patriots are in there is just because of the wide receiver room right now. But I feel like once they fix that, they'll probably be the future is looking decent at least.
Yeah.
So now somewhere in between, like they hate it and they love it at the same time because like their future's good, but right now it's kind of bad. Are the Bengals, mostly because of the defense, and the Saints because they have like pieces on their team which are good, and they have other pieces on the team which are bad, and it's just like
way too many injuries.
Yeah.
I don't think that they have a potential to do as good this season, but their future is looking real bright. I mean, all their injured players are really stellar. Whenever they can get them back, and if they can keep them healthy, that team has a future.
So future looking decent. The Bears, the wide receiver room is so good. I feel like Caleb Williams in a few years might develop into actually getting the wide receivers the ball more. The Colts, Anthony Richardson look good. I think that's why they're in this section. And
get more consistent. Maybe get more offensive weapons, but just work on consistency. I think he's the explosive quarterback that deserves to start in the NFL. He just needs to work on consistency.
The Dolphins, they looked good. Okay, I'm not going to say they looked bad. If Tua can just prevent head injuries, I think they'll make a pretty good team later on.
And I think the biggest hole you need to fill if you're gonna keep Tua around is get some better backup quarterbacks, man. Maybe get Aaron Rodgers in there if he's gonna go backup. Maybe get Gardner Minshew in there. Get a better backup than they have right now because Tua is gonna be out a lot if he keeps getting concussions.
Yeah, and I think that their defense, it's a decent defense, but it's a little on the older side. So maybe they should start playing for that a little bit earlier in advance, but I think that they are future looking decent at least. The Bucks, Baker Mayfield, he's looked
playing the best football of his career.
Yeah, and I think really just the injuries decimated them with the wide receiver room, but really if they had a fully healthy team, I'd really pick them to win the NFC South.
And Mike Evans is playing great right now, and he looks like he's not planning to slow down anytime soon. The moment he returns from injury, I think that offense is going to get right back on track.
Now for teams that are in the playoff hunt. Well, the Falcons, they consistency issues, but right now they're winning the NFC South. The key word right there is right now. They could lose that very easily. And the Broncos, I feel like they're pretty much in that conversation too.
Yeah, I mean they're not gonna win the division or anything, but I'd say they have a pretty good chance of making the playoffs.
And then the entire NFC West division, they're all separated by like 2 games. So really,
it's anyone's game.
Yeah, it's anyone's land. Playoff wild cards. So the Chargers, Texans, and Packers are all teams that I think that will make the wild card, but probably don't have a big chance of getting past the wild card.
Yeah, the Texans have been too inconsistent to say that for sure. I think if C.J. Stroud can kind of lock back into the place that he was in last year, maybe they're slightly more contenders. But I wouldn't say they have as good of a chance as they did or as they would if.
In between the wild card and like Super Bowl contenders are all teams that they could make the Super Bowl. It wouldn't be surprising, but we're not expecting them to necessarily. And then teams that we don't necessarily expect to get knocked out during the wild card, but somebody's got to go. So if one of these teams plays another one of these teams, it could happen. Yeah. And in that we have the Commanders, the Steelers, the Eagles, the Ravens, the Vikings, and the Bills.
Yeah, I think the Ravens, the field goals are going to keep being an issue. That's not going to go away. The defense, I mean, whenever Kyle Hamilton gets back, they'll be a little bit better. But until you can figure out those issues, they're not Super Bowl contenders in my book.
The Bills, great win, but I think really I want to see consistency from the defense. Yep. You can show up against the Chiefs anytime, but if you don't show up against other teams, then how are you supposed to even play the Chiefs in the first place? And the true Super Bowl contenders, there's only 2 teams left. It's the Lions. It's the Chiefs. The Chiefs had a bad loss. I understand that, and I think that's what you're about to bring up. Is that they had a bad loss, but they've always owned the Bills in the playoffs. And
they're still looking like the kind of team that's like, they're not looking explosive necessarily, but they're controlling the ball. They're keeping possession far longer than anyone else, and they're squeezing out wins in every game. I think, they're still Super Bowl contenders.
Lions, enough said. They score 50 points a game. You can't do anything about it. Yeah. And at the end of the day, they're a great team, as much as I hate Jared Goff.
In my heart of hearts, I hope he'll throw another late game interception in the playoffs to sell their chances. But right now they're looking like the Super Bowl team from the NFC.
There's only 2 teams that have shown that we could possibly beat the Lions: the Vikings and the Rams. I know the Lions had a very early season loss in week 2 against a team. I don't remember what team it was, but you're going to lose a game in an NFL season.
It happened to the Chiefs. It's going to happen to anyone,
Yeah. And I think that really, if we see Chiefs-Lions Super Bowl, I know I hate Jared Goff. I'll probably be rooting for the Lions. I know that.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I think I'd pick the Chiefs over the Lions just because, a lot of family Chiefs fans, but yeah, I think I would put the Lions to win that matchup if they are the Super Bowl team.
It's just like we don't want to see a Chiefs 3-peat. Nobody does unless you're a Chiefs fan. And no offense to Chiefs fans, but the amount of help the refs have given, everything else has been given, and all that, it's going to be annoying if they win a 3-peat, but we'll see when that happens in February.
Yep.
For right now, our time is up. So thank you for tuning into the podcast. We will see you all next week.